Welcome to episode number 267 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. You can find us by searching for us, Beyond Social Media Show. You'll find our website and links to all of our channels there. We are recording live on YouTube on April 26, 2019. Topics this week include Avengers Eggs, Sunplugged, Earth Day, Twitter trends, Chimpstagram, Foldable phone fiasco, Zucked, and much, much more. BL kicks it off with the best story of the week. BL, what do you got?
Well, today, Google is having fun with the Avengers Endgame opening. So if you go to Google, there's a great Easter egg, which is some hidden code that makes something happen. For those of you who don't know what an Easter egg is, and I saw it in a story in The Verge by Thomas Ricker. So if you enter Thanos in Google search, and then the search box on the right side pops up and the infinity gauntlet is there, then you click on that gauntlet, and complete with 6 infinity stones around the gauntlet. It snaps its fingers when you click, and instead of eliminating half the universe's population, the way Thanos did in Avengers Infinity War, Thanos eliminates half your Google search results. In 0.44 seconds, half your results go from 95 million, to 52 million. And there's sound effects. And then when you click the glove again, it goes back to normal. If only it was that easy to make your world go back to normal.
Very nice. Google always has clever
and great sound effects too.
Awesome. Well, mine can be in either good or bad, and it should be in both, actually. So Luminary has launched. Luminary is the they're trying to be the Netflix of podcasting.
And a good way to put it.
Yeah. So they are, they're trying to aggregate all the podcasts and be the central place and subscription model and stuff. But so the plus side of this is another channel through which people can find podcasting, more distribution reach. They've got a lot of funding behind them, so that presumably will give them a leg up on your typical startup who wants to do something like this. On the downside, they are launching without some significant podcasting players. And more people are pulling out. More and more of the big namers are pulling out of asking them not to include their podcast within Luminary's app. And they also are having they're getting some blowback from podcasters themselves for the way that they're presenting the podcast in the app. They're using a proxy server to deliver the podcast. And what that means is you're not, as a podcaster, you're not going to be able to get any of that traffic data because it's not on your site. It's not downloading from your feed. It's downloading from their own server. So using a proxy server that's basically hiding all the traffic that they're delivering, quote unquote. A lot of other problems they're having, but it is an interesting. It's an interesting entry. I don't know what to think of it right now. We are included in it. You can pull your podcast from it. There's a way to do it if you want to. I'm not going to
reason to do that.
There's no reason for us to do that. But what do you think? What do you think of the story, Bill?
Well, first of all, they don't include any show notes, and most people read the abbreviated show notes to see whether they want to listen to the podcast. So right there, that's an issue. The fact that you're not getting the stats on your traffic, that's another issue. But mostly, they want people to pay to listen to podcasts. That's the issue. There's a limit to how many subscriptions we can have and how many subscriptions we're going to pay for when we can get a lot of the content in other places free. That's the issue with Apple News. Like, I already subscribe to the New York Times. Why would I need Apple to give me that? It's the same thing here. So there are a lot of issues for podcasters, but they have a lot of money. And I figure people with a lot of money are ultimately going to find a way,
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting that you bring up the Apple News Plus subscription model. That one makes sense because if you're inclined to read your publications in digital, when I subscribe to a magazine, I kind of like having the print version, but nevertheless, there's value there. You're paying a fairly low monthly fee to get a bunch of subscriptions that would cost more if you subscribe to that individually. With a podcasting thing, one, nobody really charges for podcasting right now, so that's a hard barrier to cross. And two, that's the reason why a lot of the big namers are pulling their podcasts out, because you're charging for our podcast when we're not charging from ourselves, and they probably want to preserve their own monetization model in the future anyway.
Really, where's the money going to go to? It's not going to go back to the podcasters, or at least they haven't announced that.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm very wary of this thing, and it's very big, and I'm wary of very big things that come into the podcasting world, because there are big players in it, and some of them are fantastic, but I'm rooting for the little guys like us.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. So that's the only good story, quote unquote, I've got. So we're all you.
Well, I got some good news. In Finland, there's an energy company that's called Bear. I think that's probably not how you say it, but they wanted to highlight their environmental credentials, and so they went to a music festival, and they had it be powered by solar panels and audience members on bicycles. So it's a super smart way to promote a cause, because the company wants to demonstrate that solar energy can be used in Nordic countries and stored for later dates in the winter months when it's dark. So they built 20 energy generating bikes by the stage, and that supplied kinetic energy with the audience pedaling away, which would be big fun. And so their goal is to create experiences and change people's attitudes about solar energy. And I think there's a perfect way to do it. I wish somebody'd do that here.
That's
you don't
awesome.
have to go to the gym. You could just go to a festival.
So these are nowhere bikes, right? They're stationary bikes that
you don't go anywhere, right? Like
so you can actually enjoy the event and get some exercise in at the same time, right?
Yeah, and you have great seats because you're right in front of the stage making it happen, You
should be if you're powering the
So the other thing I have is about what's in a name. And without Julian Koenig, Earth Day might never have actually succeeded. And that's important because he's widely regarded as one of the 20th century's most innovative advertising writers. And he was a creative force behind the Volkswagen Beetle campaign and others that are memorable that we all know. And in the 70s, a group of activists wanted to have a national day to draw attention to environmental issues. And when he heard about it, they were at that time thinking about calling it Ecology Day, Environmental Day, E-Day. And he said, nobody's going to care. And so he made it clear that they would be jerks if they didn't call it Earth Day. Sure enough, they did. And it's still here with us all these years later.
God bless the copywriters.
Really? I mean, they're heroes. And I mean, E-Day? Come on.
Right.
So the other thing that I have in good news is the SEMrush study of Twitter's top 2019 marketing trends. And they did an analysis of tweets with the hashtag content marketing. And they wanted to show that content marketing strongest association is with digital marketing, and traditional offline marketing is losing ground. So they analyzed the best performing tweets in English posted in the last 3 months with the hashtag content marketing, and 61% of the tweets were about digital marketing. Regular marketing, or not digital marketing, only was 39%, and online marketing was the 10th most popular. So the main advantage of digital marketing over traditional marketing is the measurement value that online has and the ability to track performance. And so 72% of the content marketers credit their strategy to their success. And so it's a really important topic for those of us who practice content marketing. And, SEO is crucial to that. And search engines are critical to our success. And SEMrush is critical to our success because it gives us such a tremendous amount of data. I mean, you can spend whole days in there learning about what you're doing and what your competitors are doing. So it's this research that is worth taking a look at it, and it included an infographic that summarized it really well, and we'll put that in the show notes.
Interesting. Do you know, so did they measure, was there the traditional marketing based on the hashtag marketing? Is that how, okay.
Yeah.
So I wonder, I mean, I'm a little, I trust
People can use
SEMrush.
traditional marketing, if that's what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, and how much are traditional marketers talking about traditional marketing on Twitter, I wonder?
Right, why would they be there? Yeah, it's kind of odd.
There's that, but it's fascinating though, because the nomenclature we use to talk about our craft has evolved over the years, and I had always called myself an online marketer and did online marketing is what I said that I did. Until so the advertising agency started getting into it, and they started calling it digital marketing. And I always thought that was it was fairly vague term. I think because I heard advertisers using it so much that I associated that phrase digital marketing with advertising, that they were talking about advertising when they talked about digital marketing. And when I talk about,
term has evolved.
When I talk about digital marketing, I'm talking about it in the old sense of online marketing. It's broad. It's about anything that's online, any online communications. So I think I may be wrong. I'd be interested in your take, Biel, but I think there's some confusion about what exactly digital marketing is in the marketplace. Do you think so?
Well, I think there's confusion about that. I think there's confusion about what social marketing is. Yeah. People use all these terms. And I remember when I was working in an agency, and this is 10 years ago, when everybody was saying, well, social media really needs a different name. Like, why? Social media doesn't need a different name, but people just like to change the name of things. But really, but digital marketing, yeah, it's a term that's pretty much owned by advertising. But what we do in the end effect is seen in a digital format. So I guess in that regard, it's an okay term.
Yeah, and I think now content marketing and digital marketing is kind of becoming interchangeable. I think when people talk about digital marketing, often they're talking about content marketing these days.
I think what we do is more content marketing than anything else. And
it starts with content. It's always started with content.
So we could call it digital content marketing.
Digital content online marketing.
Right. That's my new term.
Non-traditional.
Right. Non-traditional. I like that. That's only what, 8 words?
Right.
So Twitter does a lot of really horrible things, I have to say, but Twitter has done something interesting. They want to have users talking about issues that they see in people trying to spread false information about elections, about the electoral process. And there's going to be a default button. I don't know when this is coming, but there's going to be a default button that's going to allow you to click this is misleading about voting, and that's an option that you'll be able to use. What they haven't said is what they're going to do about it, but they're saying that they're strengthening, the headline of their post was strengthening our approach to deliberate attempts to mislead voters. The question is, who's looking at that? What will they do about it? What action will they take? Or are they just, blowing in the wind as usual?
Yeah, well, I mean, this will turn into, there's going to be spamming of this.
This would be abused, yeah. And where is it going? And who's doing what with it? So it's an interesting idea that I think is unenforceable in the current platform situation that we find ourselves in.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing with this is I think the antidote to this and all of the problems on social is media literacy. It's
Oh,
just,
I agree 100%. And I don't know who's going to teach it though, because it seems to me that it should be taught in first grade classrooms
yeah.
and on up, and is it too late for the people who are out here now screwing around? I don't know. But yes, of course, it's critical, and it's not happening.
Right, it is not. And well, if we can go on to the worst subject, I have worst stories. I have a subject that's related to that.
Go right
Um,
ahead.
so this is must watch. This is Richard Engel, who is a foreign correspondent for MSNBC. He does fantastic reports, and his last one had a segment on how Russian trolls are weaponizing social media, and it is an update basically of what's going on now. So there's the Russian troll farm in St. Petersburg. We know the story. Use wedge issues to divide us by race, immigration, gun control, and spread disinformation, and basically so online discord. And that it's an update of that. So all I'm going to say is we'll put a link to it in the show notes. You got to watch it. It's required watching for your political media literacy.
Your hair will stand on end while you're watching it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have much lighter bad news. This is called Chimpstagram. There was a video of a chimp on Instagram, I think it was yesterday, and it went viral, and it was for all the wrong reasons, according to Jane Goodall and other primatologists. The source of this is Twitter and CNET, and we all get a kick out of seeing animals act like humans, laughing like Bart Simpson and saying, look, he thinks he's people. But this chimpanzee knows very well how to use Instagram, and he's using his opposing thumbs to scroll through and pick the posts he wants to read. And it was, so these memes are all over the place, and there's millions of people have watched and shared these videos. So Jane Goodall, the foremost chimpanzee researcher on the planet, put a message on her website, and she said she's really disappointed to see that this portrayal of a juvenile chimpanzee is perpetuating the illegal, and I can understand what she's saying, the illegal pet trade of great apes. It's making it look like they'd be great pets, when actually wild animals, rather than, being trained to give you the response that you want, they may just turn around and eat you or kill you or rip your face off. I mean, it seems like that trained behavior is exacting, but what she's saying and what other primatologists are saying is you can't decide what a wild animal is going to do. And when it's your pet, I mean, imagine having like how much do they weigh? Like 800 pounds? You have a chimpanzee and it's going to Instagram.
I think you're talking about gorillas. I don't think chimpanzees are that much. But
what do they weigh? I mean, you don't want them to not like you.
I saw the headline. I didn't see the actual video, so I don't know about the video and can't comment on it. But it does bring to mind the story. Maybe you saw it, of the man in Florida. He's like 70 years old or something, who had a giant exotic bird.
Oh my God!
That murdered him. The bird murdered him because the bird's got these talons that are just like that big, and he fell and it stomped on him, and a horrible death. But
he was raising like a lot of them, for some reason.
Yeah,
which is not explained.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's an interesting, what attracts people to wild animals in their homes is beyond me. But the other bad news do you have more, Dave?
I do.
Oh, go right ahead.
This is from Wired Magazine's Luisa Matstakis. And this is a story you've heard, but we haven't talked about it. Galaxy Fold. So Samsung has introduced their foldable smartphone. The first line of the story is beautiful. It reads, Samsung's nearly $2,000 Galaxy Fold could still be one of the most creative devices to come to the market in recent years. Right now, though, it looks like the phone's flapped its folding wings too close to the sun. The phone literally folds in two, so you have like a mini tablet that works as a phone too, so it's a foldable phone. So the release has been postponed because the review models that they sent out to bloggers and to writers have been breaking. iFixit is a website. They put a step-by-step teardown. They got a hold of one and tore it down, did a step-by-step on it, which revealed that there are open gaps where the phone folds. So the phone folds, and on either side of the folding, there's an open area. And that's apparently debris can get into the device via that open area. It's very small, but nevertheless, debris can get into a device. And so that makes it easy for Chrome to get inside your phone and damage it when it knocks into something. So, I mean, how do people use phones? They use them in all kinds of different ways. Stick them in their pockets. Their pockets have all kinds of stuff in it, so it's going to get into your phone. So
it's too big to fit in your pocket anyway, which is a problem about phones.
Well, you get big back pockets or whatever. Anyway, a bunch of reviewers had this problem. The Verge's Dieter Bond has an article that basically has high quality photos of how it's breaking, and then includes his own it includes other people's reviews, other reviewers who shared their photos as well. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes so you can see how disastrously this launch went. And so the lesson is, test out your phone in all kinds of different environments before you launch.
Don't you have to wonder with a $2,000 phone?
$2,000, yeah.
I mean, not that other phones are that much cheaper anymore, by the way.
Well, it's about twice the cost of an iPhone with.
Yeah, but I mean, still, it's a good idea. It's actually a good idea, but it needs more testing. So, Zuckerberg these days is every time you turn around, there's another awful story about what's happening on Facebook. And Black activists say that speech policies and content moderation systems on Facebook which they claim and are right, is very much founded by and dominated by white men, that they are discriminating and marginalizing groups, particularly people of color. And they call it, this is from a USA Today story, and it's a quite extensive story by Jessica Guyon. And what they're saying, that their voices are disproportionately stifled, that Facebook takes action on reports of racial slurs and violent threats and harassment campaigns, and they target Black users who say they're being zucked. They say these bans have serious repercussions, that they're cutting people off from their friends and their family for hours, for days, for weeks. So an example of this, Carolyn Weisinger, a high school teacher in California, said it took only 15 minutes for Facebook to delete her post for violating what it called its community standards for hate speech. And she was warned that if she posted again, she'd be banned for 72 hours. What was banned was her comment about Liam Neeson going on a talk show trying to convince the world he's not a racist. And she posted a post that began with, "White men are so fragile." And she said she looked at her phone and she wasn't surprised. Black people talk about racism on Facebook, and their posts get removed and they're locked out of their accounts, and they call it Facebook jail. And the post was just an example to her of Facebook arbitrarily taking down posts about racism, and in a way that is racist. So Zuckerberg, commenting on this, he said that lawmakers tell him that Facebook has too much power over speech. And he said, frankly, I agree. So, maybe he needs to sit down with a bunch of Black women who use Facebook and just listen. And a consultant who is an anti-racism consultant, whatever that is, whose name is Natasha Marin. She said, if I were to sit down with Mark Zuckerberg, the message I'd want to get across to him is, you may not even realize how powerful a thing you've created. And I think that's true. and entire revolutions can take place on this platform. She said global change could happen, but it can't happen if real people can't take part. It's an ongoing issue, and to avoid being flagged, they use digital slang like WYPIPO, which is a phonetic spelling of white people, and they put in emojis and hashtags that allude to evading computer algorithms and content moderators on Facebook, and they operate under aliases, and they have backup accounts so they won't lose their content, and they've developed a buddy system to alert friends and followers when a fellow Black activist has been sent to Facebook jail. And this is a really serious issue because about half of Black users turn to social media to express their political views and get involved in issues, according to Pew Research Center. It's a really complex issue. It has many different manifestations, and the article is a very long must-read article, but this is a very serious problem.
Yeah, I was thinking about this today. The Mark Zuckerbergs, the Jack Dorseys, the startups who have created these enormous platforms, they're they're programmers, they're engineers. They think of would be a really cool idea, and then they go and do it, and it was, but they do not think of, and maybe this is because it's the first generation of these types of entrepreneurs, but they don't think of any of the larger societal consequences of it. It's become clear that these platforms obviously have profound societal consequences, and maybe hopefully the next generation of people who are developing these are more cognizant of the types of issues that may arise when they create these platforms. That doesn't help solve today's problems.
At the time that Facebook and Google came about, there were not these issues.
No.
These issues are things that are a consequence of the openness of the internet, I suppose. These are political issues. These are issues that didn't exist, so I don't know how they could have foreseen them. I think the issue is they haven't kept up with them. But you're right, they're programmers, they're developers. They weren't meant to be, the entrepreneur in charge of a $300 billion corporation. And, Zuckerberg is Facebook for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. The other thing is that there's a pattern of them digging in their heels and refusing to acknowledge the problem, at least at first. I mean, with Zuckerberg, you kind of see Jack Dorsey as well. I created this tremendous, amazing platform. It's not doing a place to the world, right?
Well, Dorsey's a wuss, He won't own up to what's going on around him. He claims that they're working really hard behind the scenes, and then again, we don't see anything actually changing. But I mean, Zuckerberg has confronted all of this with his apology tours, and that has to come to an end. And now he's being fined, what is it, $5 billion, which is like 1 month's revenue for them, so big deal. But it's coming down to Zuckerberg personally being held responsible, and I don't know that you can hold one person responsible.
Yeah, I don't know this. You'll have to give us a couple more episodes to come up with the answer, I guess.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, right? Yeah. So, where does that bring us, Dave?
Shiny new stuff.
Oh, okay. I have some of those. Let me just get there. I came across these. Hold on a second. Royalty-free illustrations. They're not cheesy. They're not something you'd hire. Yeah, not cheesy. And my mouse is not helping me here. They're free, and they're in categories, and you can use them in your marketing, and they're actually worth taking a look at.
All right, cool. I was surprised to find out that Mailchimp has launched a podcast. It's called Going Through It. It is hosted by Ann Friedman, who is a journalist, magazine editor, and herself a podcast host of the Call Your Girlfriend podcast, which I haven't listened to, but there you go. It's apparently popular. The tagline or the description of this Mailchimp podcast, you would think it's about email marketing, right? It's not. It says remarkable women share pivotal moments in their lives when they had to decide whether to quit or keep going. So there are 14 episodes. Two of the names you'll recognize right away: Soledad O'Brien and Hillary Clinton. So they're interviews with remarkable women who shared pivotal moments where they've had to decide whether to quit and keep going. Interesting take. I wonder if their demographics show that the majority of the people using their product are women.
That's a good possibility, but also they're trying to change their image in a big way, because Mailchimp, the monkey thing, they're trying to get past that, and they have ads about that, about how your name isn't who you are, and things like that. So I'm going to listen to that. That sounds interesting. Yeah. The other thing that I came across the other day in terms of podcasts is the Brief but Spectacular podcast on PBS NewsHour, and these are my kind of interviews, 2 to 5 minute interviews with thinkers, makers, artists, inventors, and they're talking about what they're passionate about. So the ones I've listened to, Steve Martin and Martin Short, the gig economy and why it's not working, a dating coach talking about what you should know before you go on your next date, why journalists are needed, and the people who are doing them are really interesting people, not necessarily well known high name recognition people, but fascinating people. And as you know, I I like the idea of short podcasts. Not that we do them, but I like the idea.
We're doing pretty good this week. So speaking of which, let's wrap this up.
Oh, all right. That's great.
All right. So the daily numbers this week. This is brand social media behaviors that connect with customers. This is from Sprout Social. So social media behaviors that help brands connect with customers. At the top of the list is liking or responding to a customer. 55% said that. That seems simple. I mean, that just seems obvious. Showcase the brand's personality. 45% said that. Support a cause the consumer supports. 45% said that. Participate in relevant conversations. 44%. Highlight industry or category trends. Create strong online communities. Invite user-generated content. So a lot of this just has to do with having a human voice on social, I think.
There's such a need for that. I mean, there's still so much corporate crap out there. There's still so much formal speech and stuff that I wonder who's listening.
Yeah.
So, wow, that brings us to the end of episode 267 in record time. So thanks for watching the Beyond Social Media Show. And you can find us by just searching for Beyond Social Media Show. It'll take you to everywhere that we are. So David Erickson is on Twitter as D Erickson. He's on Instagram as DE Erickson. He blogs at the wonderful eStrategy blog, which you should not miss. I'm on Twitter as What's Next. I blog at What's Next blog, and I'll be back there in a couple of weeks when I get this sling off my arm. I'm on YouTube as What's Next blog, and I have a website called blochman.com. The show, BeyondSocialMediaShow.com. On Twitter, we're BS Media Show. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play. Where else? I'm missing something.
And pretty much everywhere. Just favorite. Tell us if you can't find us on your favorite podcatcher, and we'll figure it out.
Right. I mean, wherever you listen to podcasts, you'll find out we're there. And we will be back next week, same time, same station. And we thank you for watching tonight.
Thanks for watching.